You have no idea how happy I am to say this, but I think the MCU has a win under their belt. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. And today I got a big MCU review as I am talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. No spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie, do not worry. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you have seen it, your expectations for the movie. If you have not, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. The MCU's been on a little bit of a slump lately. I didn't really love any of the 3 films they put out last year, nor the TV content. So it's safe to say I think the MCU's been on a bit of a cold streak. Well, to me, this movie's got them right back on track. And just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Because when I walked out of this movie, I was buzzing. I felt like I had an adrenaline rush, and I was excited to go back and not only rewatch MCU content, but look forward to what's to come, which I haven't felt that way probably since Spider-Man No Way Home, genuinely. This is the first time we've seen Ant-Man since Avengers Endgame, and the movie starts fast. That's not a bad thing, though. It really does a good job of establishing the family dynamic out the gate as we get to see how time has really played a factor in Scott's relationship with his daughter Cassie. There's a big emphasis on that, showing how he was gone as a father because of the blip for 5 whole years of her life, and so their relationship is a little rocky, unfortunately, which is pretty heartbreaking considering, back to the first Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, how him and Cassie or Peanut just had such a really heartfelt relationship. It was sad to see how much of an impact the blip had on them. And I think that's one thing that I really have to praise about this movie is that at its core, it really does feel like a family story. Not just the father-daughter relationship, but seeing Hank Pym and Janet's role with Hope. Everyone has a role to play here, and it makes for this compelling family story, but then we dive into the greater story overall, where it becomes more of this visually trippy, epic sort of movie in a way, as we explore the quantum realm in ways we have not in the MCU. It becomes its whole new world with its own set of rules, and I really bought in. I love to see some world building and some lore out the gate in a new MCU project, and it was cool to explore the quantum realm. But I can't talk about this movie without discussing the elephant in the room. Jonathan Majors is here to stay as Kang the Conqueror, because this man not only carried the movie on his back, in my opinion, but had such a commanding screen presence, and he sold me instantly. We'd seen him in Loki near the end of the show, but seeing him come in here as the full-on villain from the start, it was incredible. I mean, they even do a great job of setting him up in the movie. They're building up to him. They keep referring to him as him or he. They don't even drop his name, and the build-up to actually seeing Kang in this movie was so well done. It really added the tension, made us feel the fear of, Scott and our other characters who were just like, what the hell is going on in the quantum realm here? It's rare that we get a villain in the MCU where the actor is fully committed and you just feel terror whenever they deliver a line. It's along the lines of Thanos here, people. I mean, Jonathan Majors is that damn good in this movie. Cannot wait to see more of this character and the role they may play as we approach, Avengers Kang Dynasty. But there's one thing in particular that really stands out. My girlfriend actually pointed this out when we were watching the movie. He has moments of silence when he's speaking, where, in other MCU films, there might be a comedic bit thrown in to kind of cut the tension. That's not the case here. Like in the first interrogation-esque scene with Kang and Ant-Man coming face to face, it was terrifying. It was dead silent in the theaters between important lines, really adding to that dramatic tension and creating terror for the audience. Another thing I thought this movie did really well was give side characters from the previous Ant-Man film more of an important role. Janet Van Dyne has a pretty integral role to the plot itself here, and you can sort of appreciate her return in Ant-Man and the Wasp even more, but the most interesting dynamic about her character is this concept of what are you willing to do to protect your family? Will you lie to them? Will you withhold information from them that could end up hurting them in the long run? Really changed my outlook on that character. And speaking of the Van Dynes, it felt like Hope had a limited role here. I know I mentioned that it seemed like everyone had something to do. Hope had probably the most limited role of our 5 main characters, and kind of draws the question, why is it even called Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania? I feel like they're doing that for continuity's sake because Ant-Man and the Wasp was the second film, but it's much more Ant-Man's story here, and seeing Scott Lang have to deal with, living post-Endgame as this hero and dealing with his own identity as he tries to be the best father he can to Cassie, but also struggles with maybe some ego issues for Scott Lang. Now, a lot of people will come into this movie and expect action sequences galore because it's an MCU flick, and I'll be honest with you, that's not the case here, but I don't think this movie is about the action. A lot of MCU movies will build up to, big grandiose action scenes. Well, this movie has a lot more plot development and sort of establishing new characters within the MCU, and I appreciated that a lot more. Like in the middle act of this film, there's a lot of exposition heavy moments, but those were actually my favorite moments in the film because it gave us really great backstory on Kang as well as other existing characters within the movie, and I was genuinely engaged with the expositional scenes. I've seen some, buzz going around online that those scenes didn't do it for some people. Well, I dug it. That was actually my favorite. There's a long, about 10-minute scene in the middle of the movie that was my favorite favorite. And if you've seen the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but I was like so locked in and just eager to see more. You're gonna have your typical, third act action in this movie, but that's not what the movie's about. It's more about the family dynamic and establishing these new characters. Now, as much as I did enjoy this movie, I think that it had some weak links, and the weakest by far was a performance by Kathryn Newton as Cassie Lang. And again, I don't like to sit here and bash on performances, but if I'm being honest, it was noticeably bad at times. There were lines where it came off so stale and almost emotionless. It unfortunately was comedic, and it sort of felt like Disney Channel acting at times. Myself and others I saw the movie with agreed, and I think that will be the consensus here. Again, I still bought into Cassie's relationship with Scott. Kathryn Newton's performance here, by far the weakest in the film, at times distracting in my opinion. Now, one of the most divisive aspects of this film is going to be the character of MODOK. I'm not going to reveal any details about MODOK's role in the movie, but all I'll say is I'm on board with what they did. It's going to upset a lot of people probably, but I thought it was hilarious and also fitting within the context of this movie. Also, it's an Ant-Man movie, so of course it's going to be goofy and cheesy at times, sometimes to a fault, I will admit. There were jokes that definitely didn't work for me and gags that went on a little too long, but overall it embraced the fun cheesiness that the Ant-Man movies have been so far. And in my opinion, it's been able to retain like that lighthearted feel of the Ant-Man films while still being pretty damn dark at times and teasing what's to come in the future. So overall, I enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Paul Rudd, fantastic performance here. Jonathan Majors stole the show with his just menacing screen presence. And of course, there's some weak links like I mentioned, but above all else, it's got this heartwarming family story of Scott trying to rekindle his relationship with his daughter Cassie, as well as revisiting past demons within the quantum realm itself. It was very relevant within the MCU and established what is to come, which excites me. I feel like we got away from that in past MCU films, but it doesn't prioritize that in my opinion. It prioritizes this family story and this adventure fuel that really we haven't had since the earlier phases of the MCU. I was fully engaged from start to finish, and I haven't felt that way with previous MCU films. And perhaps most importantly, it didn't overextend its stay. Like, I don't even know how long this movie was. I didn't check the runtime before going in, which is rare for me, if you know. I really never felt like bored or was like, oh my gosh, this thing's overextending its stay. Quantumania knew what it was, it got the job done, and Kang is a badass villain who is here to stay in the MCU. There's 2 post-credit scenes. They both hit in my opinion. The second one got an audible gasp out of me. You guys will have to stay tuned and watch those and let me know what you think down below. All in all, it just feels right in the world after walking out of this theater being satisfied with an MCU movie, because normally my critiques far outweigh my enjoyments. That wasn't the case here. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is a win in my books, and I'm gonna go see this movie again in theaters. Coming from me, someone who's been sort of outspoken against the current state of the MCU, I dug Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, just had a complete blast with it, and I'm so sold on Kang as this villain. It just really did a great job of kickstarting Phase 5. My excitement for the MCU moving forward is way higher than it used to be. But those are just my 2 cents on Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Let me know what you think down below if you've seen the movie. If you haven't, let me know your expectations. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for tons of MCU content coming this week for my updated MCU ranking, to my Ant-Man and the Wasp spoiler video, which again, that's coming very soon, and of course some other MCU content as well. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the quantum realm.